Minecraft PvP. It's something all of us have spent time doing. It's comprised of incredibly simple mechanics. Some people are awful at it, while others spend thousands of hours perfecting their skills. Whether you've only played for a few weeks or you're a grandmaster at it, one thing is certain. We all know how it works. Except, I don't think we do. In this video I'm going to be focusing on PvP in Minecraft versions Alpha to 1.8.9, as this is the version which people most enjoy and most people play on. In later versions of the game PvP is completely different, so maybe one time I'll make a video on it, but for now we're staying in 1.8.9. The first question we need to ask is, how does PvP work and what determines who wins a fight? Well, each player in a fight will have 20 hit points, and they will be able to deduct from these points by hitting the other player, which is done in game by looking at a player and clicking on them. The amount of damage they will do depends on all sorts of things, such as what armor they have and what weapon they're holding, but for now we're going to assume it's a fair fight, so none of that matters. So at this point you may be thinking to yourself, surely if all you need to do to win is click on the other player, we're just testing who can click the fastest and who is the best at aiming. But if you've played any PvP before, you'll definitely be familiar that this is not the case. See, in order to hit a player, your hit vector has to collide with their hitbox. If you don't know what either of those things are, I'm going to explain them now. Well, a hitbox is pretty simple. It's basically a volume that the server uses to determine where an entity or player is. The hit vector is essentially just a line that extends from a player's head, straight forward where they're looking, but only for 3 blocks. This means you can't hit a player if they're more than 3 blocks away from you. But this just raises the same question. If both players have the same reach, then surely there'll be no winner because they'll hit each other at the same time. This isn't true for a couple reasons. One of these reasons is the fact that when I said the player's hit vector comes from their head, it actually doesn't. It comes from their head position plus their velocity. So this means that a player doesn't actually have a reach in the shape of a sphere around their head. It's actually shifted slightly in the direction of their movement. This meant that if you wanted the best chance of winning a fight and you wanted to hit your opponent more than they could hit you, you wanted to be moving towards them as quick as possible, and you wanted them moving away from you as quick as possible. Since when you hit a player, they're knocked backward, this led to the rise of something called comboing, where it's almost impossible for one player to hit the other. This is true for 2 reasons. The first one being that both the attacker and defender are moving in the same direction, meaning that the person who is walking in the same direction as the fight is getting much more reach than the person going in the wrong direction. And it's also because when you get hit, you're knocked upwards slightly. And if you imagine a sphere coming from the player's head, this means that they have even more distance to the other player's hitbox. So there's no chance they're going to land any hits. But there's one flaw with doing this. The amount of knockback you give a player decreases with each successive hit. The only way to reset this is by resetting your sprint, which can be done by tapping W, which led to the technique known as W tapping. W tapping essentially involves you quickly releasing your finger from the sprint key in order to reset it. This means that you'll deal more knockback to your opponent, meaning that they'll have more backwards velocity, meaning that they will have a more difficult time landing any hits on you. This will greatly increase your chances of winning a fight, which is why so many people do it. However, this is certainly not the only way that you can slow down your opponent and change their velocity to give you an advantage. By placing blocks in front of your opponent, you're able to bring them to a complete stop, meaning that their reach will be reduced, so you'll get less hits from them. This is something that can take a long time to get used to, especially if the server is slightly laggy or you have high ping, but if you do put in the time to learn how to do this, it will give you great advantages in PvP. In the background now you can see some clips of me and my friend doing that. Now I want to talk about something called strafing, and this is essentially when you press one of the sideward keys on your keyboard. This means that you'll actually move route 2 times faster, because not only will you have your forward vector moving you forwards, you'll also have your sidewards vector moving you to the side. These vectors will add up and you can do Pythagoras to see how fast you're going. If you're sprinting, it's not quite a bigger difference because your forward vector is more, but it still increases your speed. Just instead of straight forward, you'll be moving at an angle. But that's more or less all I wanted to talk about today. If you want another video similar to this, because I haven't really covered all of what there is to do with PvP, please let me know. Yeah, have a good day.